Hello, hello. My name is Rick Lewis. This is day 4 in 21 days of the life of a professional speaker, in which day by day I'm just sharing the kind of things I need to handle and what my attention is on as I lead up to 4 events in a row within a 6 or 8 day period. So it's a busy time. And I just thought it would be a neat exercise to just talk about what it looks like to be preparing for a series of events like this, all for different clients in different parts of the country. Here on day 4 is a production day for me. And what that means is calls to the AV teams and the catering departments of the places that I'm going to be presenting. Now, I do a routine where I dress identically to the serving staff as the hotel. I pose as a waiter who's going to get more and more odd and eccentric over the course of the meal and eventually reveal himself as the keynote speaker. So this is something that is very unusual in terms of what a speaker would ordinarily have to do, because I have to connect with those catering departments and tell them what I'm doing. I have to match the staff, so I have to know what they're wearing so I can blend in with the staff. I need to make sure they're aware of what I'm going to do, they're okay with it, and coordinate with them. So I do that with the catering. So this week I'm making 4 catering calls to 4 catering departments. I'm having to manage any sense of alarm on behalf of a banquet manager or catering director who wants to know why I'm doing this and whether I'm going to make their staff look really bad as a bad waiter. So it's a call to make sure I assure them, tell them how I'm going to manage it, and that by the end, no one will confuse me with their actual staff. It'll be very clear. I'm just an entertainer, not an actual server. So catering calls, making those. I made 2 today, and I'll make a few more this week. And then production calls. Production calls are something that every speaker, I highly recommend you do this. Most speakers are going to be presenting are going to need a microphone of some kind, maybe a sound system at your disposal if you're playing music in the background or using any kind of audio track. And then thirdly, the screen projector and your computer or another computer to serve up a PowerPoint or similar visual presentation. So it's super important. This cannot be understated. It's important to know what you're walking into as a presenter, because every venue has a different arrangement and setup of AV equipment. So their projector, their screens, where the screens are placed, what the lighting is like in the room. Is there light on stage? Is there very little light? I cannot tell you how flummoxing it is that I walk into so many venues and the stage is dark. They just don't have enough light on stage to really make the presenter visible. So I try and get a sense of that in advance, coordinate with whoever's running the room to make sure we can get sufficient light in there. And if not, ask for a lighting special to be brought in. That's rare that has to happen, but on some occasions it's necessary. So I made 1 call today. I've got 3 more production calls to do, and it's fairly time consuming. I have to get a hold of these people, often leave messages, either follow up with them directly or ask them to get back with me. I'll send an email in advance. I ask my client to give me the contact information of their AV provider, and often I will send an email in advance just saying, hey, heads up, I'm the presenter on this particular day at this time for this client. Here are the things I need: a wireless microphone or a handheld microphone, a PC audio connection so I can plug in my iPhone and play music, and a projector and a screen set up. And then they'll be back and forth about that, depending on what kind of equipment they have, whether I'm using my computer or they're going to use their computer for AV, and I'm going to send them my deck on a thumb drive, and they're going to load that up and present it for me. There's those details to work out. As well as where the screens are going to be placed in the room. I will often ask for a room diagram so I can see how the room is laid out, because sometimes people just aren't that invested in how an event comes off, and the room can be laid out in some strange ways. You'll be working, if you're doing this repeatedly as a speaker, you'll be working in all sorts of rooms of all sorts of shapes and environments, and it actually really makes a difference to get the geomancy of the room right, that where you're standing in relationship to the guests is optimal for them viewing you, and also to minimize interruptions. So if you're placed somewhere on a stage near an entry or exit door of a conference room, and people are visibly coming and going, either right to the side or even in front of you, I've had this sort of thing happen. You don't want that. So it's really good to get a look at the room, make sure the stage area is where you'd like it to be in relationship to the audience. Stage size is also something to input. I've gone into rooms and asked for a diagram beforehand, and I've seen a diagram with a stage that's 20 by 40 feet wide and deep, which, unless you've got 1,000 people looking at you, is totally overkill. And then in some instances, I've been in a room with 300 people and they have no riser on the banquet order. So then you have to ask for one, a simple 6x8 riser, get yourself at least a foot off the ground so everyone can see you. So all of these are details that you really need to handle in advance. You don't ideally want to walk into a room and discover that things are really funky or askew, and you've got to scramble and get the banquet team at the facility to start bringing in risers or move lights around or change where the projector and the screen are set up, because all of these things take time. And if you're doing that all at the last minute, it's going to get really stressful. You're not going to be able to focus on your presentation, and that's not good for you, the client, or the audience. So it's really important to know your equipment. You need to know, if you're using your own computer, all the settings for the projector, for your audio output, for your projection output, and how to mirror your screen, stuff like that. So there's a bunch to learn there, and I highly recommend, if you're new at that, do a test run of this. Use a projector and screen somewhere else if you get a chance, so you know your computer is doing that properly. And then if you haven't done it off-site at different locations before very often, then make sure you get in that room with plenty of buffer time to work that out with the AV and tech people. The easiest way to get around that kind of hassle is to ask them to use their own computer for projecting, and you just bring your PowerPoint deck on a thumb drive and hand it to them and let them worry about the computer and the projector talking properly together and getting your slides to look well. So then, if you leave yourself some time, I usually ask for the tech to be there about 90 minutes before my presentation. So if any issues come up, we have plenty of time to troubleshoot them. And if you're not used to doing this, I recommend maybe even asking them to meet you about 2 hours beforehand would probably be a good thing to make sure you've got plenty of time to work things out. So that's some of the details off the top of my head. I'm having these calls in advance, and these are all things I know to ask about and look for in advance to make sure my presentation is going to go smoothly once I'm on site. It takes, unfortunately, running into some situations that are not ideal to learn this stuff. But if you keep in mind a lot of what I've mentioned in advance, make a little checklist for yourself to go down and connect with these AV teams in advance, that will help make sure that your presentation goes well. I hope that's helpful. If you have any more questions, just leave them in the comments. I'll be watching this video in the comment space. So if something's not clear or you have another question, I'm happy to answer it. And that's day 4 for 21 days in the life of a professional speaker. I'll see you for day 5.